Well, good afternoon and welcome to today's random thought. Well, the question is, and this is kind of stemming from our discussions at Bring Your Own Bag and Bible. It's a dinner Bible study on Wednesday nights. It stems from this and from the conversations we've had over the last 3 weeks, which have been very stimulating conversations, mind you. But the question then becomes, what does a Christian look like? What does a disciple look like? Well, it looks like me, could look like you, could look like anybody. But what are some of the defining characteristics of a Christian? Well, we'll get into that. In today's episode of Random Thoughts, we'll be right with you. Does a Christian look like? Well, kind of to begin the process of this conversation, we've been talking about, like I mentioned in the preview, in our Bible study on Wednesday nights, we've been talking about ethics, we've been talking about morals, we've been talking about piety. Those are just the last 2 Wednesdays. We're also talking about what does it look like? Who is a person? So that's kind of the fundamental idea. Who is a Christian person? Well, number one, we want to be able to talk about who a Christian person is. So what are some of the characteristics? Well, a Christian is not, it's start out with saying what a Christian is not. A Christian is not holier than thou. No. A Christian is not holier than thou. We may kind of sometimes give that impression. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not a good impression to give because we think that we're better than somebody else. I mean, it's the old biblical story that Jesus told of the Pharisee and the tax collector. Pharisee says he's standing at the wall of prayer and look how good I am, look at what I've done for you, God, look at all these wonderful things, and I'm glad I'm not him. We sometimes come off this way. We think sometimes we're morally superior. Sometimes we are better than somebody else. And it gives the wrong impression. So let me answer, we are not holier than thou by saying what we are. We are at the same time a sinner and a saint. What does that mean? Well, I'm a sinful human being. This human nature is sinful. My basic thought processes is self-centered. My basic thought processes are not lining up with God. My basic premise is I'm not aligned with God. I'm not even in the image of God. Just not there. And a Christian also is a person who is humble, walks humbly before his God. A person who he loves justice, acts mercifully, and walks humbly with your God. Micah chapter 6, verse 8. A Christian is a person who has a joy of life. A Christian is a person who lifts other people up, doesn't tear them down. A Christian is a person who actively serves. A Christian is a person who actively worships. A Christian is a person who actively cares. A person who actively studies. A Christian person is a person who actively learns and grows and puts what he or she learns into practice into their own life. A Christian is a person who loves, who has steadfast love. A Christian is a person who is holy, justified, made righteous. And I look at myself and I'm saying, I'm not any of those things, and I am also all of those things. I'm this wonderful conundrum, wonderful duality, if you will. I am a person who's self-centered and egotistical, and I'm a person who is humble and focused solely on the other person. I'm that same person. I have those two aspects of the same person, and somewhere, somehow, this person, is a blending of both of those concepts. I am a Christian is a person who is a royal pain in the backside sometimes, but also a loving and caring person who would give you the shirt off their back, or in some cases, 2 shirts off their back. A Christian is a person who ultimately and predominantly loves God first and foremost. Now, it may not come off that way sometimes. It may look like I don't love God at all, but I do. And that's the conundrum of being a Christian living in this day and age. Actually, let me rephrase that. Living in every day and every age. Because Christians have always been like that. We're not holier than thou. And if you see somebody acting a little holier than thou, then I think they may be pushing the edge of the envelope. Yes, there are morals. Yes, there are standards. Yes, there are ethics. Yes, there are the 10 Commandments. And yes, God calls us to obey all of those commandments. And God, through Jesus Christ, forgives us when we fail, when we sin, and it's gonna be a lot. God forgives us. When we say to God, God, I am sorry, I have put myself first again. Please forgive me. And because of what Jesus Christ has done for you and for me, that's exactly what God the Father does. He forgives. He starts us off. We are wiped, the slate is wiped clean. We're on a new starting block, a new starting over, all these other wonderful things. And our life is a constant struggle in order to maintain, keep up with, and live out this status of who I am. I am a person of God. And it is my desire as a person of God to live according to the grace and the mercy that God has given to me. So notice I did not say live up to the commandments. I live up to the grace and mercy. Think about this a minute. God has been so gracious to me. He has been so loving and so kind to me. I can never, ever live my life according to what I think I should. But I try, because I want to honor God with my life. I want to honor God with my soul, because He has poured His grace and His love into me. He has poured His grace and His love into me when I was baptized so many eons ago. He has poured His grace and love to me every time I stare at His book and start to think, what does this mean? He has loved me so much every time I come to the table of Holy Communion and I kneel before the rail, and I know I am a sinner, and I know I am receiving the grace and the mercy of God that comes to me in Jesus' body and blood that is in and with the bread and wine. I know what it is to be a Christian, and my life is a lifelong struggle in order to make that happen. I know I've been saved, and I try my darndest to live up to it every day. Am I perfect? No. Am I forgiven? Absolutely. And in that forgiveness, in that grace that God has given to me, I will live as best as I humanly possibly can. I will love God with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my strength, with all my mind, with every ounce of my very being, and I will love my neighbor as myself. I will give of myself for my neighbor. I will give of myself for those who are in need. That's what I am. And that's what I do. That's what a Christian is. That's what a Christian looks like. So if you're looking for a person who's going to be that Christian, you look for, first of all, look for a person who struggles. who realizes that he or she is a sinful person that has received the forgiveness of sins. Look for a person that says, hey, I know what it is to try and live up to the standards that God has given to me. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. I know it's frustrating sometimes. And I know that I have been forgiven of all my sins. And I am working my tail off in order to live out what God has given in me. If you see a person like that, you see a Christian. When you see a Christian who is busting his tail for other people, would be willing to give his shirt off his back for somebody, that's a Christian. A Christian, yes, acknowledges that sin is sin, and one must proclaim and say this is a sin, to stand up for the truth of what God says, to stand up for the truth of God. I need to stand up for him. But a Christian is also one who says, I know my God, I know my Redeemer lives, and in my flesh I will see God, I will see him, and I want to bring as many people as with me. I want to bring you with me to see Jesus in my flesh, in your flesh. We are resurrected. We are going to be resurrected. Wait a minute, how can that happen? We are in a resurrected state right now. I have been resurrected from my sins. I've been resurrected from sin, death, and the influence of Satan. And I will be fully and completely and totally resurrected after I pass. Even though I die, yet will I live. A Christian is a person who studies, who learns, who grows. And most of all, at least the most visible, a Christian likes to hang out with other Christians and other people and people who aren't Christians. A Christian is one who learns and grows from God through his or her interaction with other Christians. We call that Bible studies. We call that study groups. We call that Bible talks. We call that Coffee with Christ. We call that men's group, women's circles, women's circle of charity, circle of love. We call it worship. We call it gathering together around word and sacrament. Because God has a lot to tell us, to equip us, so that we are encouraged by his grace through the interaction and the communion that we have with each other, the communion we have with God in a vertical way, the communion we have with each other in a horizontal way. Christians gather together. They need it. They crave it. They want it. The worst thing a Christian can do is try to think that he or she is an individual. We get in trouble when we think we're individuals. We're part of a collective, and we want you to be part of our collective also. So we go out into your collective. I was leading study last night. I was reading somebody, Richard Crafe, and he's talking about God being in the slums. God being in the slums with us. In the muck and the mire and the gunk of human existence. God is with us. That's what Emmanuel means, God with us. God is with us in the muck and mire. Jesus was in the world with the muck and the mire, and he interacted with sinners, and he interacted with people who needed to heal from their sins and from their sinfulness. When confronted, when Jesus was hanging out with Matthew and his tax collector sinners, hey, those who need a doctor, I'm going to be with them. Those who don't think they don't need it, well, you think you don't need it, so I'm not going to hang with you, but I'm going to hang with the people who know they need it. So we're hanging with the people who we know need it, us and you. A Christian is a person who is both and, not either or. We're never an either or. We're both and. We're both in the Word. We're both in the world. We are in the world, but we are not of the world. In other words, our understanding of life is not worldly. It's godly. but we're here in the world to bring godly to the world. Hope that makes sense to you. But we are here for you. And we need this building up. All of us need to build up. I mean, we were never designed, the human race was never designed to be individuals by ourselves. We've always been designed to be in community, starting with God and us in a family. Husband, wife, children. And then the bigger family. Lots of husbands and wives and children gathered into the family we call the church, the koinonia, the community of God. We're always designed to be a community. We're never to be isolationistic. A Christian does not isolate himself or herself from the world. That's not what we're here for. We're here to engage the world with His love and mercy, so that we rejoice over one sinner who repents. I've given you a lot today about what a Christian is. If you have any thoughts, comments, please let me know. Tell me what you think, what you have a question about. Let me know. Also, like to have you, hey, you like our videos, give us the videos. But mainly this, let your other friends know about our videos too. And how we can be impactful using this medium. But ultimately, we want to come together. So come together, be with us, check us out, and we'll see you soon. Hey, we'll see you on Sunday, as a matter of fact. Have a great day.